Guten Tag. Welcome to a beautiful day on the Frankaboo Ranch. Okay, today we are continuing our Oktoberfest series, and today we are going to make traditional Sauerbraten. Now, as you can see, I've already got some things going on. I'm doing this in the interest of time because nobody wants to sit here and watch a pot boil or wait for a pot to boil. So let's talk a little bit about Sauerbraten. All right, Sauerbraten, you take a really nice piece of roast and you're going to create a marinade. Now, our marinade has 2 onions, 2 carrots, 3 cloves of garlic, salt and sugar, bay, black peppercorns, juniper berries, 1 whole leek, and a couple sprigs of thyme and rosemary. Then we've also got 2.5 cups of red wine, which is boiling here. We've got 1 cup of red wine vinegar and 1.5 cups of water. Now, I don't expect you guys to remember all that. I am going to put the recipe in the recipe section online so you guys can see it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to add all of our ingredients to our boiling liquids. We're going to take our leek, put that in there. We're going to smash our garlics. These things. Now, you can hear the smoker going behind me because, you guessed it, we are smoking our roast first. So that roast has been in the smoker for about 2 hours now. And I'm going to pull it out here in a second once we get this garlic in here and show you guys what we did to it. Now, just like our Spätzle and our Jaeger Schnitzel, a little bit of smoke went a long way on that. And that's exactly what we're hoping for here as well. All right, so let's mix this in. You can see we've got a really nice, it almost looked like a soup. Now, when I say we're going to marinate this, I mean we're going to marinate this for a week. So this isn't something you're going to make and serve the next day. They say you can marinate it for 48 hours. Traditionally, it goes upwards of 2 weeks. Okay, let's throw this in here. Now we're going to get this going and we're going to let it simmer for about 8 to 10 minutes until all those flavors are blended. Then we're going to put it in here into our non-reactive bowl, and we're going to cover it, put it in the refrigerator after it cools, of course, and we're going to let it marinate for a week. So a week from now, we'll come back and finish this. But let me go ahead and pull off our roast. Okay. You can see our roast here. It's got a really nice tan on it from the smoke. And it is going to add a whole new dimension of flavor to the dish when we get done. I picked these up at Costco. 2 really nice roasts for 25 bucks. I'll vacuum seal that one, freeze it, use it at a later date. This one we're turning into Sauerbraten. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this go ahead and cook down for a little bit. I'm going to let it boil, simmer for 10 to 15 minutes, and then once it's done, we'll put everything together into the bowl to marinate, and we will let it go from there. So we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, guys, so what we did was we simmered our marinade for about 10 to 15 minutes. You can see everything. The onions are nice and translucent. The carrots are relatively soft. What we're doing is just trying to meld all the flavors of the vegetables together. Now, I put this in another bowl with an ice bath underneath to cool it down faster. Otherwise, you're going to sit here for an hour plus waiting for it to cool off. So what we're going to do now is we're going to put this in marinate for up to a week. So what we're doing, or what I'm doing here, is I'm just putting this, I'm burying this down into the marinade. And over the course of the next week, every day I'm going to turn this piece of meat. I'm going to turn it because obviously I'm not completely submerged. I'm just going to turn it ever so slightly so that every day I'm rotating it and it's all being exposed to the marinade. After a week, we're going to come back and we're going to finish this dish. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this thing in the freezer. I'm going to cover it, or refrigerator. I'm going to cover it with a little bit of plastic wrap and put it in the refrigerator for the next week, and we'll be back after that. Okay, guys, so here we are after our Sauerbraten has been marinating for 10 days. Okay, let's just do a real quick recap of this recipe. We started by getting a nice piece of roast that we picked up at Costco. We created our marinade. We boiled the marinade to bring all the flavors together, and then we dropped the roast in, and it has been marinating in the refrigerator for 10 days. Now, you don't have to marinate it for 10 days. I'll show you why I like to marinate it for 10 days, but you can actually just do it for, I think 48 hours is the shortest time, but you're not going to have this type of color on the meat. And you can see the beautiful color from the red wine on the meat. Oh, and I forgot to mention that we did smoke this for about 2 hours, and you guys saw in the first segment of this where we had the, it was nice brown color from all the smoke that we'd put on it. And so now we're going to continue on with the recipe. Now, just remember when you are marinating this that you need to turn it unless it is completely submerged, which mine was not. So I turn it about every day, and it will come up looking nice and red like this. All right, so I've got my smoker heated up to 345 degrees. Supposed to be 325, it overshot a little bit, no big deal. And now I've got my Dutch oven going. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sear this thing. I'm going to put some oil in the pan that's already nice and hot. I'm going to sear the roast on all 4 sides, 3 sides, whatever we got here. And then we're going to return all the marinade back into the pot, and we're going to cook it for about 2.5 to 3 hours until it's fork tender. And once we get done with that, we'll show you the rest from there. So let's go ahead and start the sear on this thing. Looks like my oil is already starting to smoke a little bit, so that tells me it's nice and hot. So, and we're just searing it up on either side, just to give it a little bit of extra caramelization, a little bit of flavor. Now, once we get done with the cook, we're going to reserve the liquid and discard all the solids, and we're going to make a gravy. And that's what we have the extra pan out here for, is for the gravy. We're going to make a nice little, we're going to actually cook some flour and use that to thicken the gravy. And we're going to have a delicious Sauerbraten when we're done here in about 3 more hours. You can see it's starting to get a nice little brown, crispy sides on the edge of the roast here because our pot's nice and hot. It smells absolutely amazing. I really want to cut into it and take a bite, but it's not cooked, it's just marinated, so we'll hold off on that as the artillery falls from the trees above me. Ooh, that smells delightful. All right, let's see where we're at. All right, give that just a little bit more on there. All right. Move this stuff away. All right, that should work. Yep. All right, so we got nice color on all sides. Right there too. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add the marinade back to the pot. Okay. Now, what we're going to do now is we're going to cover it. We're going to cover it, and we're going to cook it on the smoker. You can leave it uncovered if you want, but we're going to cook it on the smoker for 2.5 to 3 hours. If you leave it open, you'll get a little bit more smoke flavor on it. I like the look of that roast when I put it into the marinade because it had a really nice tan to it from the smoke, so I don't really think I need much more smoke flavor beyond that. But there we have it, and we will come back in about 2.5 to 3 hours when it's ready to go and finish this recipe off. We'll see you back in a few. Okay guys, here we are at the end of our Sauerbraten cook. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to take the Sauerbraten out. I'm going to remove the meat from the marinade. I'm going to strain all the solids out, meaning all the vegetables, everything that we put in. And then I'm going to make a quick roux, and I'm going to thicken the sauce so we have a gravy. So let's go ahead and pull this off. Okay. All right, so you can see it smells absolutely amazing. It looks delightful. And let's go ahead and get this out. Okay, so we're going to set this right here. And then, like I said, I'm going to go ahead and strain the solids out. So I'm going to take this. Okay. I'll put that over here. A little bit left in there. Let's get those out too. All right. And we're going to turn the rest of that into gravy. So I'm going to let that sit right there for a second. And then, like I said, I'm going to, come on now, make a quick roux with some butter and flour. Now you can put the flour directly in if you have cornstarch. I just so happen to be all out of cornstarch. Normally I just use a little bit of cornstarch, but you can take some butter and flour and cook it a little bit, make like a brown butter. Thicken it up here. I just want it to cook a little bit. You don't want to put raw flour in. If you're going to do it this way, you want to make sure you cook the flour. You can see it starting to turn a little bit brown. If you don't cook the flour, it can leave a funny taste. It's the way I was always taught. So I like to blend it till it starts to get brown. You see how it's getting brown there? It's as far as we want to go. So I'm going to set that aside. And I'm going to take this out. I'm going to put that on my spare plate over here. And I'm going to move this right here. Now I'm going to take my very hot liquids and put that back in there. Now I've also got 10 ginger snaps. Sounds odd, is what it is, part of the recipe. So we're just going to put those in here too. That helps with the thickening, and it's going to give it that nice gingery sweet flavor that you have in a Sauerbraten. All right, so we're going to mix that in. And then I'm going to take probably don't have enough here, but that's all right. Get this thick as possible. I'm going to stir it in. Look at that. See, it's already turning into a nice looking gravy. See how thick that got? Just like that. Just let that thicken up just a little bit more. Scrape the rest of this out here. Actually, I might take a little bit of that, put that into the pan. You can see how nice and thick that is already. I probably don't need to do this, but I'm going to anyway. Okay. Get the rest of that out. Okay. Let's get these out of the way. We don't need them anymore. And you can throw away the vegetables. There's no need for them anymore. It's just spent veggies. If you want to, you can sprinkle some over the dish. I don't really particularly care for it because it doesn't look wonderful. Okay, so since that is nice and thick, and you can see now, I'll show you here. See now we got a nice gravy with the drippings from the marinade that's been in there for 2 weeks, and everything that's been cooking in there as well. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take this Sauerbraten, and we're going to take our tongs because it's still very hot. And we're going to take a couple slices of this off. And the smell is just fantastic on this. Okay, we're going to lay this down here like this. You can see we got a little bit of the smoke ring. We got some nice marinade on that. Looking really good. And then that tastes delightful. Turn that off before it gets too hot. And then we're going to take our gravy. And we're going to cover this in a wonderful 10-day marinated Sauerbraten gravy. Now, I'm going to serve this with red cabbage and probably some smoked potato salad. You can do either one of those two. You can do the fried potato pancakes. All of the above, whatever you'd like. Now, as I said before, this is a little bit complicated dish. I'd probably rate this about 4 or 5 out of 5. Just because you're taking 2 weeks, or you can take up to 2 weeks. We marinated this for 10 days. So there's a lot involved with it, but at the end of the day, when it's ready and you guys taste it, it is absolutely fantastic. So there you have it, guys. Authentic German Sauerbraten. So until next time, Prost. Keep on smoking it.